B, which is let us start the session. Can we go live right now?
Yeah, ready.
Welcome back. And we are starting the opening session part B. The theme of the session is tackling trade finance strategies in new normal world. We have very eminent speakers over here. Uh, Mr. N. Ramesh, Deputy Managing Director, India Exim Bank. Mr. CNA Anbarasan, Executive Director of ECGC Limited. Mr. Neeraj Prasad, DGM SME, State Bank of India. Mr. Viraj Shah, Director, Business Development, DRIP Capital. The session will be moderated by Mr. Rajiv Moitro, Member of International Trade Committee, Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Director, Consulting, Energy and Resources, Deloitte Touche Tohmatsu India LLP. Over to you, Mr. Moitro. You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Moitro. Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, eminent speakers, dignitaries, Honorable Chairman and members of International Trade Committee at BCCI, webinar participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege to moderate this session on the theme tackling trade finance strategies in the new normal. First, would like to welcome the distinguished speakers for this session, Shri N. Ramesh, Shri CNA Anbarasan, Shri Neeraj Prasad, and Shri Viraj Shah. We are indeed grateful to have four of you today. Regarding the session context, we are all aware that about the impact of pandemic on business and trade. And trade financing is going to be one of the critical enablers for trade to, I would say, rebound. And it has already also evolved over the years, facilitating around 80% of world trade. Global revenue from trade finance is estimated to be around $40 billion in 2020. However, there are concerns related to trade finance globally as well as in India regarding high cost and complexity of compliance. We all know that Indian trade, the total exports was around close to $528 billion in 2019-20. Imports was around close to 600. And Indian trade has been traditionally impacted by various metrics like turnaround time, operating cost, physical documentation, etc. So the cost of compliance is always going to be high. And here trade finance can play a major part. These nations of Indian trade have limited trading volumes. And if you look at India, trade finance exists in various forms, in terms of facilities for pre-sales and post-sales requirement, packing credit advances, bill discounting, letter of credit, VG facility. We looked at some of the key pain points for the sector. So what we understand is the entire manual process for contract creation and reviews, AML controls, enforcement, documentation checks, and duplicate factoring, and these are some of the issues that many of the exporters have pointed out over and over again. Very important to point out is in terms of the working capital to trade finance, the MSME exporters find access to formal credit and liquidity very difficult. Recent RBI data shows that loans to MSMEs have fallen almost 4.96% YOY. Here, informal credit can play a big part. In fact, fintech companies are providing easy credit and trade finance solutions to MSME exporters. Alternate financing options such as supply chain financing and factoring are gaining traction in the Indian space. And more important is new technological innovations and digitization. For example, blockchain and some of the other innovations are expected to reduce costs for trade. Very important disruption trade supply chain. We all saw that how COVID-19 had impacted supply chain around the world and in trade, and it has pushed banks to move to more trade finance transactions to digital platforms. With this context, some of the key questions for the session are, for the eminent speakers, what are the trade finance related challenges faced by exporters, bankers, and financial institutions, fintech companies during the pandemic? What are the potential opportunities to trade finance to enhance ease of doing trade and liquidity for Indian exporters, especially MSMEs? How does the trade finance scenario compare with some of the leading countries in a post-COVID world? What are the likely policy interventions and regulatory enablers required to promote trade finance in India? and how can we increase MSME lending and increase MSME competitiveness, and what are the innovations in retail trade finance expected in the near term, and some of the new instruments that are going to come, and lastly, what are the evolving role of Exim Bank and ACGC going forward? These are some of the leading questions I would like to put in front of the eminent speakers, and I would first request Mr. Ramesh to start off his discussion. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Ramesh.
Thank you, Mr. Maitra. The agenda for the discussion you have set out very clearly, and those are the right pointers. As you have explained, globally the trade finance is an important component in the world finance, and then 80 to 90% of the world trade is in trade finance part. Before the pandemic struck, even before that, the US-China trade relations greatly impacted the world trade. And then the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative that had its own impact. So prior to onset of this pandemic itself, the world trade had been contracting to a larger extent. And then this has really had severe impact during the COVID pandemic. But I would say, I think India has been out there in the contraction in the world trade, as we had come out with a very less impact per se, I would say. So that is quite evident from the numbers we have seen with respect to exports from India, which was down by 14%. But I think this I'm telling from April to November statistics, which stood at $304 billion. But as we are closer to the year ending, we may be matching up the previous year and may even slightly turn positive also. Of course, our imports have been quite reduced, for that matter, about by 30%. So there had been a paradigm shift in the way our export composition also changed during this particular year. The discretionary spending, the large-scale spending, those export had been quite limited. The project goods, gems and jewelry, leather products, the offices equipment and all, they have seen decrease more than 30-40%. But fortunately, the sectors which were kind of not doing so great had picked up quite a lot. Just to name a few: agriculture product, minerals, the chemicals, pharma sector had been a star performer. So there is, going forward, if we continue the same trend, we will be having a very good growth in all these sectors. Now, coming to the trade finance scenario, of course, by end of June, we will not be having a proper comparison. That's the latest figures available in the public domain. Indian trade finance advances had been around 1.82 crore. So which is a decrease of 10% compared to the previous year. Of course, the economy was little slowed down during this particular period. Now, government has taken a lot of initiatives. Once the lockdown was announced, the Honorable FM and Honorable PM announced the Atmanirbhar package, followed it up with ECLGS, version 1, version 2. And then the most important, which really had a larger impact on the exporters, is export credit was also eligible to be provided under priority sector lending, and the contours of it were changed to see that eligible to the borrower, limits were changed, and the maximum lending also is kind of changed. So this has come in very handy during this difficult times, and the bankers could provide a larger exposure to exporters at a lesser interest rate. Now, if I speak of Exim Bank of India, although we didn't utilize it, RBI immediately sanctioned us a line of credit of 15,000 crore for 90 days, and then we were given a $1 billion foreign currency line as well. We didn't utilize it because we could manage with our own resources part, but that has been the proactiveness from the government of India and Exim Bank as well. of course, the one important aspect in this discussion is to what can be done to finance scenario. So there was a study conducted to see how to improve the export financing framework. Our MD sir David Raskinas was the chairman of this particular group, and co-chair was Special Secretary from Department of Commerce. There had been a certain pointers provided from this working group. I would just like to reiterate much of these recommendations had been put in place, and some are under progress. The export credit finance facility, which was there earlier, that needs to be reinstated. So, and if it can be linked with the repo rate, so that's going to be helping to moderate the interest rate on rupee export credit. So, much of our pre-shipment credit, I would say, is on rupee based. So that would get greatly benefited. Now, the foreign currency post-shipment or pre-shipment credit, that is not having an interest equalization component, which is available for the Indian rupee component. So if government provides a special window facility for banks with this particular interest equalization, the exporters can be getting their finance at a reasonable rate. Then another suggestion was, we have a lot of unexplored markets. Our exports had been targeted to a certain set of developed countries, and then a few developing countries where the banking and financial institutions are having a good presence, and then a large part of the world is not explored by Indian exporters. So there is a possibility of a trade credit facility so that we can access the CIS market, Latin American market, and some of the African countries also. So here we can extend this trade credit facility to some of the financial institutions, identified ones, so that that particular facility can be used for importing importing Indian goods and services. As part of Exim Bank's policy, we have been continuously exploring and then providing this kind of facility to certain of our partner financial institutions in the African continent. Now, another important thing, there are increasingly certain countries had put under sanctions, either OFAC or embargo has been put. So there, the regular financial institutions would not be able to continue transacting with those countries. The financial transaction would invite a lot of sanctions, and then the larger interest of the bank will be compromised. So we had developed a concept paper and then given it to Government of India to take forward the counter trade arrangements. These are the countries which are rich in minerals, rich in oil, and certain other products which Indian importers would need, the domestic market would need. So if there is a possibility to exchange goods and services from India with this particular goods instead of it can be a mixed proposition of a simple barter, or as a whole or part of this particular payment can be through the quantities which we require. So different scenarios have been explained. I think going forward, the Government of India would be seriously looking at it so that our interests and our needs are also fulfilled. Now, there is a good factoring market in India where MSMEs are getting benefited, and Ministry of MSME had been kind of pushing a lot on bringing a lot of MSME exporters as well as the industry to come into the factoring part. But in the international factoring part, there is less of a movement on that on this account. Per se, with the smaller exporters, the larger exporters can always open a international subsidiary and then access the international factoring market. But whereas the smaller exporters would not be having that luxury, I think there is a need to develop this particular market as well. So these are the important recommendations on the regulatory part of it, or new innovative solutions to develop the trade finance. Of course, Mr. Maitra did mention about the blockchain technology, I think this is one important, technological development which is going to improve trade finance quite significantly. Of course, the entire gamut of financing can come in here, but trade finance is more akin to do this, and the cost reduction, accruing to the exporters will be quite significant. Of course, there have been a few of the banks which have been, kind of in the forefront, and they had been experimenting with blockchain technology for trade finance. I just would like to quote few. HSBC India and ING Bank Brussels did this. ICICI Bank and Emirates NBD had done this. NBD has done with Stanchart. I think the inclination from commercial banks is increasing, and I hope with the SWIFT system also trying to up the blockchain technology in the trade finance, I think this would get a big boost. Now, I'll take a few more minutes to try to emphasize on where does Exim Bank play its role in the trade finance part of it. Although the bulk of trade finance is in the short-term part of it, the LCs and the other facilities, which constitute in any country about 75 to 80% or up to 90% also. Exim Bank plays a lot role in the medium and long-term trade finance. The short-term finance is largely looked after by commercial banks in India and doing great in this respect. In the medium and short-term, medium and long-term finance, Exim Bank has got several bouquet of products. Of course, we are running the Government of India's line of credit program as well. We have around now about 266 lines of credit with about 762 countries. We have sanctions of nearly $26.6 billion. So this is one effort to see that the interest of Government of India and the needs of the developing countries are being met in this particular setup. The other important program is the Buyer's Credit Program under NEIA Trust, where the Exim Bank, ECGC, are working together, and this is a very unique kind of a model. The structure is very beautiful, wherein Government of India has provided a certain financing and made a trust to cover for the insurance needs. The Exim Bank is providing the long-term financing part of it. ECGC is underwriting the insurance cover here. So we have been able to provide facility for project exports for about 30 projects. As of now, around $2.9 billion worth contracts had been supported. So these are the ones which normally the other commercial banks would try not to attempt. So Exim Bank is pitching in that particular space. We have also have tie-up with a lot of the African countries and the development institutions where trade finance facility has been, trade credit facility is being given, and the only mandate is to import from India either goods or services. A new program of Government of India, that is Ubarte Sitare program, which was a concept developed from Exim Bank. We had provided it. A lot of Indian SMEs are there, which have been doing great in domestic market, quite successful with their product, and which is also useful for launching it in the international market. I mean, their products can definitely gain an entry to the international market. May not have the bandwidth, the guidance part of it. All those market information may not be available. In Exim Bank, we are providing, identifying such opportunities first, and then those champion companies, if I can put it so those will be provided technical as well as financial assistance also. So that's a small introduction to our major programs which are with respect to the trade finance part of it. So going forward, I think this trade finance facility need to be enhanced the way we are currently operating is not going to really, going to help exporters in a big way, because the world is moving in a different direction. This is an opportunity pandemic has offered to us to do things in a way which we thought was not possible about 6-7 months before. One example is this particular event itself. So I think we gradually move towards the technological component to be playing a great role in the trade finance. From Exim Bank side, we would be facilitating any such move, and we have been forefront of this. Thank you, Bengal Chamber of Commerce, to provide this opportunity to put forth the views of Exim Bank on the trade finance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. I think really it's a pleasure for us. I have a couple of questions for you before I move on to the next speaker. So there is a Gujarat committee which was set up in 2018 August, and it had actually reviewed the export credit scenario in India. So there are a couple of areas they mentioned about the restoration of LOU, LOC with proper safeguards, because typically, if you look at these instruments, the exporters are using this to import critical raw materials because it is easy way of doing it. And the second thing they have asked some of the I would say institutions is differential margin or collateral requirements for issuance of LCs or BGs, pertaining to MSMEs, particularly in cases where credit cover is from ACGC. Now, if that's the case, ECGC is working with Exim Bank for giving the insurance cover. But are the MSME exporters given some differential treatment in terms of these, taking these lines of credit?
Yeah. The Gujarat Committee's recommendation on the LOC safeguard is very valid, in the sense it provides a lot of opens up new opportunities for the Indian exporters where we had not been exporting as of now, or our interest from Indian exporters had been quite limited. So we had provided such facility to TDB, the Eastern and Southern Exim Bank in Africa. Afro Exim Bank, we have such facility. So we typically, what we do is we provide a certain, say, 50 million or 100 million line of credit to this particular bank, so that I, with a statement, with a particular requirement that they should be used for this facility should be used for importing Indian goods and services, and they have been doing great. I think we just need to ramp up on that part of it, and then try to even venture into some of the other African nations and the Latin American countries. So and of course the CIS countries also, there is a good opportunity on that front. We are in talks with our sister organizations, the other Exim banks and the export credit agencies. There are few talks in advanced stage, so we'll be able to do some more on this front. The second part of it, I think it's more related on the short-term credit. I think we have this arrangement with ECGC with respect to the medium-term, long-term. When I say medium-term, it is above 8 to 10 years. So this particular arrangement we have, and then the margins are different in this perspective. I would request my colleague from SBI to comment on the differential margin part for the LCs part of it, which is more on a short-term credit.
Sure. Thanks so much, Mr. Ramesh. I think that was a leading question for my next speaker, Mr. Anbarasan, about the role of ECGC and how exporters can get more facilities and less documentation. I think one of the major challenges for MSME exporters is around documentation. So yeah, over to you, Mr. Anbarasan, if you can talk about ECGC's offerings and some of the major innovations in the recent years and going forward as well. Mr. Anbarasan, you there?
Yeah, I am coming. Yeah, I am coming. Is it audible?
You are audible.
Excuse me,
Yes.
is it? Yeah.
But you are not visible. I think the camera is on the other side.
So previously your camera was at the right position. Previously your
Right
camera was
position.
at the right position.
1 minute.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
it's
now
proper.
it has come.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv. Good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon, Mr. Ramesh. Good afternoon to the organizer, BCCA, means Bengal Chamber of Commerce. First of all, I would like to thank Bengal Chamber of Commerce for inviting ECGC, also one of the speakers in the program. So coming to the subject, the credit means trade finance. Any trade finance requires the finance. The trade finance is the finance extended by the bank. As far as the ECGC is concerned, we are the insurer, insuring the risk or credit. So credit is the lifeline of a business. So banks are extending credit to the exporters as well as to other customers. So the financing the credit is necessary to sustain the business cycle in any business cycle. This trade finance is the fuel of business. It helps the business to sustain and expand on liberal credit terms. However, this credit is having its own inherent risk, which is entering to the liberal, extending the finance liberally. So, thus it is necessary for the risk, either the risk to be mitigated or reduced or transferred, so that the trade credit can be financed liberally. Normally, the important risks in credit transaction is payment risk, political risk, rejection risk, and corporation risk such as buyer's risk or the bank risk. The trade finance also exposed to these risks wherever credit is financed. See, coming to the trade finance, there was a study by the Asian Development Bank. It estimates that structural shortfall of the trade finance is estimated around 1.5 trillion in recent years, particularly in developing countries. That study also reports that 45% of trade finance applications are being rejected. This is particularly for SMEs. I'm talking 45% of SMEs applications are being rejected, compared to 39% for mid and large corporates and 17% for the multinational companies. This shows that lot of medium and long-term export finance means SME sectors applications are getting rejected more. The same way, the applications of women entrepreneurs is being also rejected to the 44% compared to 38% of male-owned entrepreneurs. So, to tackle this situation, providing better access to trade finance for SMEs and business women, we will have to bring narrow the gap. Then only this will give inclusive growth for the sustainable development of the business. For that, technologies, the earlier speaker told, the technologies such as blockchain and big data, that will enable to narrow the gap of the this trade finance. So coming to this risk, then credit risk, what is the role of ECGC? I will simply tell about what is the credit agency, export credit agencies such as ECGC, because more than 58 credit export credit agencies are there in the world, including ECGC. We are also one of the members in the ECA, means we call it ECA, export credit agencies. We are providing this credit risk to the exporters as well as to the bankers. So you see, as all of you are aware that it's a Government of India organization. It was established in 1957 with a goal, main goal to provide insurance covers to the exporters as well as to the bankers, to cover the commercial as well as the political risk under short term and medium and long term. And short term is the credit up to 360 days. Then medium and long terms beyond 360 days, which may extend up to even 15 years period. So what ECGC provides is, we have been giving cover almost 239 countries. Last few years, if you see the data, more than 200 countries were covered by ECGC. Even nowadays, a lot of private players also came into the market. But however, we are the premier insurance agency. We are extending cover to all the countries, even restricted cover country. We say restricted cover countries in the sense that the country is economically and politically very weak. The risks are very high. In that countries also we have been giving cover. Under medium and long term also, Exim Bank, Mr. Ramesh also knows that we have been extending cover to the risky countries like Uganda, Tanzania, like a lot of African countries. So coming to the total coverage, means ECGC, our main coverage, major covers is mostly to the developed countries such as US, UK, Germany and UAE. The major sectors covered is the engineering goods, textiles and allied products, and leather products, chemical and pharmaceutical, agriculture products, which are all the employment intensive sectors. We have been giving a cover. So we have 19 products for the exporters, then 11 products for the banks, and 12 products under medium and long-term covers. So coming to MSME, specifically, we are most of our cover more than 85%, about 90% of our customers are MSME sectors. We have a special covers for MSME sectors also. There are two policies. One is small exporter policy and micro policy. Under this micro policy, micro exporters policy, we have only 5,000 rupees we have been collecting. Then we are giving cover commercial risk, political risk, and LC opening bank risk we are giving. For that, even they need not necessary to apply for a limit, buyer-based limit. We will give access to the exporters. He can access our system, intranet, where he can check whether the buyer is in specific approval list. We call it a buyer-specific approval list. If he is not in that default list, then he can freely exercise some limit up to 500 lakhs, 15 lakhs, up to 15 lakhs without any approval, they can export to the buyer. This is the micro export. Same way, small exporter policy also we are giving cover for the exporter whose turnover is 500 lakhs or 5 crore. Up to 5 crore we have been extending cover to the small exporters. So the same way the exporters, we see the cover we are extending to the exporters, we are extending cover to the banks. The banks, what is the cover we are, this will help the banks to liberally extend the working capital to the exporters. If the exporter fails to repay the money under any circumstance because of default or insolvency or any reason, then we will compensate the loss, which varies from 60 to even 95%. Under this, one more thing I want to mention, that for micro exports, we are extending cover up to 95%. Now, recently we have introduced in line with the Government of India's circular, Micro exports, for normal cover we are extending to the bank is 78%. Whereas micro, we are extending cover up to 90 or 95%. If it is a political risk, then we are giving up to 100%. This is the we are giving cover, sir. During this, coming to the pandemic, during this pandemic period, like Government of India has announced a lot of stimulus package. All ECAs, export credit agencies, have announced a lot of measures to the exporters and policyholders. Same way, ECGC also announced a lot of measures to these exporters. We have waived some credit limit application fee. We have reduced the policy processing fee. We have extended the submission of documents and other compliances. We have extended time limit up to September, October, August, and afterwards we have extended up to December. So because of this pandemic, because they cannot submit the monthly declaration or they may not comply, then we have also given discretion to exporter to extend the credit terms. They would have extended, they would have shipped on 90 days, 90 days terms, for example. Then we have given discretion to the exporters. They can extend the credit terms up to 15 months. Like that we have given. Then we have reduced the waiting period. Normally, if it is the default happens, the exporter can wait. We have to wait 4 months to file a claim. That we have reduced to 1 month.
So,
like that, sir. Yeah, tell me.
I think we are
Yeah, tell me.
The paucity of time, I would request if you can summarize and we can go to the next speaker. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
One question for you.
Yes,
you mentioned about the ADB study, which happened in 2019. And I think if you look at the top 2 challenges for trade finance, the gap. One was mentioned as the AML KYC requirement, which is the documentation, and second was around the the transaction cost. So if I look at some of the insurance guarantee that you're giving for export kind of exporter, how is that is impacting these 2 major challenges in terms of documentation, because that is one of the critical issues that people have mentioned, and second is the cost, transaction cost.
Sir, documentation in the sense bank handling documentation that you are talking about, or the documentation what ECGC is required?
No, the question is, I think Mr. Prasad can answer that.
That's why I'm asking.
That's a leading question for Mr. Prasad as well. So whenever he is guaranteeing or is insuring any exporter, in that case, how will that kind of the banks take it forward in terms of, is the documentation lower? Are they given a differential treatment? I think that's a question I asked Mr. Ramesh as well. And so, yeah, I think probably I would request Mr. Prasad to talk about that. Mr. Prasad,
that is, shall I finish? Or
yes, I would come back to you. I would come back to you on the top opportunities.
Okay.
Mr. Prasad, you are there?
Thank you.
You want to know, you want me to speak on the documentation part?
No, you can cover it as a part of your, speech.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate Bengal Chamber for organizing this webinar and inviting me also, giving me the opportunity to be a part of it. And I'm really very, very much impressed with the deliberation of Sri N. Ramesh, DMD, India Exim Bank, and Mr. CNA Ambarasan, Executive Director, ECGC. Excellent deliberations I have witnessed, and I really got my knowledge I was able to enrich. In fact, this year the pandemic has really brought all of us.
Mr. Prasad, if you could kindly put your video on. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Is it okay now? Is it okay now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. In fact, the year 2020 has been very, very challenging year for all of us. In fact, as I'm in SME, we have seen that the maximum brunt of pandemic has been borne by the MSMEs. We were nurturing many accounts, many customers, and we have seen them facing the pain, difficulties, liquidity crunch, and those. As we have seen it from very close quarter, we have experienced and we have learned a lot of things, and that would be coming very handy for all of us in the days to come. First of all, as the pandemic started, our first priority was to lend a very helping hand to our MSME customers, and SBI immediately came out with a product named Common COVID Emergency Credit Line. This was a product designed to provide a liquidity to the customers to restart the business which was almost stopped, with a business which had almost come to standstill. So this product was designed and it was launched. Immediately thereafter, the Government of India also came out with a Government Guaranteed Emergency Credit Line, GECL, and just like to inform that, as I'm posted in Bengal alone, we were able to sanction 41,000 loan under GECL, Government Guaranteed Emergency Credit Line, that too to the tune of around 1,200 crore. So, and for that, we, as we are in a way in the operations, the branches, the branch manager, the processing cell, all the employees, they were all rushing to the customers to provide them the support and to ensure that these customers are able to come out of the difficult situation as early as possible. As part of the COVID relief package and to improve liquidity, the eligible customers were also provided with the facility of reduction of margin, reassessment of working capital limits, interchangeability of between fund-based to non-fund to tide over the liquidity crisis. So these were the things that we have done, and wherever we have seen that the problem was more acute, we have also tried to provide the restructuring opportunity to those customers. In fact, a bank has always been trying and making effort to go digital to the fullest. We already had products like eMudra, contactless platform for our MSME customers. And during this pandemic, a few more products were also designed to basically one product like we talk about SME gold loan. We had gold loan product for our P segment, for our agri segment, but a new product, SME gold loan, was launched, and to provide basically to the liquidity to our SME customers. And the interest rate at present is around 7.25% only. So at a very low cost, the liquidity is being provided to the customer so that they can run the business, they can run the show well. One, as we are talking about the liquidity problem the customers are faced, we have also designed one product, pre-approved business loan. This product is meant for those customers who are maintaining current account with us. So far, they have never requested or they have never availed any loan facility from us. But seeing their trade credits and other discipline in the account, we have through our artificial intelligence and machine language and analytics, we have identified such eligible customers, and we are providing loan under PABL, pre-approved business loan. This is a very popular product now in SBI. Now, coming to the theme, trade finance definitely is an umbrella term which covers many financial products that banks and companies utilize to make the trade transactions feasible. Trade finance has basically been the business of financing international trade, predominantly through the use of letters of credit. They are very helpful in mitigating majority of the risk of international trade. The government of India has recently come out with Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. It's a very ambitious plan, and the government wants to focus on inward manufacturing, promote Indian products, brands, and services. It means that the country wants to maintain trade relations with the rest of the world, but at the same time want to eliminate trade imbalances. The world has seen that over dependence on a particular country or one country is not good, and as a country, India, we expect shift of business in our favor. When we talk to our customers, exporters, they are very, very optimistic that going forward, they will be getting more and more business. They will be able to get entry. They will be able to get entry in new markets. In all the endeavors, we are with our customers, as SBI has presence across all the major countries. Wherever we are not present, we, through our relations with other foreign banks, with the correspondent relations, we are able to provide services in any part of the country or the world, and we are ready to support and back our customers. Now, in this backdrop, the need of the hour is to educate, empower the customers, and enable them to take informed decisions. Towards this, ever since this pandemic has started, we have started conducting e-town hall meetings, webinars to guide the customers, to handhold the customers, and even giving them the confidence. And we are also sharing with certain our research finding SBI research findings to equip them so that they can take the informed decisions. This is the one step that we are taking on a regular basis. We already have products for pre-shipment credit, post-shipment credit. For rupee, we have EPC, PCFC, we have for foreign currency. In case of post-shipment also, we have many products, export bill rediscounting, negotiation, purchase, discounting, all the facilities, all the products are available. The customer can avail any of them depending on the requirement. Hedging also, forward contract, we are always encouraging the customers to mitigate the risk by availing the hedging facility. And because one mistake and the entire year's profitability is gone, wiped out. So we always encourage the customers to mitigate the risk. We know that in international trade, speed and accuracy is a must, and digital is the solution. Now, this last year when the pandemic started, the importance of digital has further increased, because now the customer does not want to visit the branches. They want to restrict their movements. So for this, we have products like eForex. We have one product, eForex, which allows the customer to book foreign exchange business sitting from the comfort of his home. He can take rate sitting from the comfort of his home office. So we are encouraging the customer very much. And in order further, recently we have empowered the customers by providing them the facility to open import LC without visiting the branch. So this is a facility we are encouraging the customers, and it is reducing the document part. The customer does not have to visit. He does not have to fill up so many forms. Rather, from the comfort of his home, he is able to key in the particular YONO Business app. The templates are provided for the convenience of the customers, and the customer can open import LC using the facility. These are the things that we have done. Going forward, we'll be making all possible efforts to further increase the digital presence in each and every area. And with this part, like in import LC, There's one FEMA undertaking, one common FEMA undertaking that we take in the beginning itself, and it avoids or it helps the customer to avoid hassles of stamp duty time and again. So these are the things that we have done. And if the customers are using the facilities, whatever we are providing, they can face the challenges better. And through this forum, we want to assure our customers, future customers, potential customers, non-customers, that we are always there to support them in their journey of doing business and improving their business. With these words, I would like to close here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. I would now request Mr. Viresh Shah to talk about some of the innovations that are happening in the this space.
Sure. So, can I share my screen?
Sure.
I think you might have to give me permission or make me the host. Okay, great. So,
Mr. Shah, before you start, request if you can restrict to 10 minutes because we already did it. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sure. So I'll be very short. First of all, I would like to thank Arnab and the Bengal Chamber of Commerce for giving me this opportunity to speak and address the exporter community. The topic that I'm going to cover is how factoring has become a strong finance tool post-COVID. So Drip is a fintech company. We're based, it's a US based company, but our core business is financing SME exporters in emerging economies, and India being the largest part of that business. We provide collateral-free working capital solutions for exporters, and like the other eminent speakers, like Mr. Prasad mentioned, that exporters are really interested in going digital. They want hassle-free processes. So that's what we try to do. And our process is completely automated and digital, and we try to disburse loans to customers in less than 7 days. So that's a little bit about Drip. I'll quickly cover some data on how India's export performance has been through the year. So if you look at this slide, right, it sort of in one chart summarizes what a year this has been for Indian exporters. So it's been a complete roller coaster ride where exports were growing in Jan and Feb. We are on the way to sort of cross $30 billion in monthly exports, and then suddenly you see a huge drop. And then post May, once the lockdowns were sort of loosened and Indian exporters started getting back in business, they have recovered back to their pre-COVID levels by September and October, and that's it's a great achievement for the Indian exporters. And I must say that's a lot of hard work, and we must congratulate each and every one of them for their achievement. Even exporters from Bengal, we see that in the data that we have been tracking, that exports from Bengal have also gone back to the pre-COVID levels. Some of the key goods that are exported by Bengal are leather goods, agro products, seafood, right? And when we are speaking to all of these exporters that we work with and also promotion councils, what we hear from them is that while they've recovered, most of them are now facing issues of liquidity crunch and are looking for credit, because buyers for these products usually ask for credit, especially when you're working with buyers in developed countries. So that is the sort of problem which a lot of the other speakers also mentioned, which is that exporters are facing a liquidity crunch. Just to put some more perspective and numbers to the kind of crunch we are looking at. There are studies which estimate that just for Indian SMEs, there is almost a $15 billion gap in the credit requirement. And if you will see why this exists, right? So while SMEs are contributing almost 40% to Indian exports, if you look at the books of large lending institutions, SMEs only constitute around 17% of their book. So you can clearly see that while they're contributing to 40 to 50% of exports, they get only 17 to 20% of credit. So that's where most of the gap lies. If you compare India with China, US, Vietnam, or any other countries, you'll see that most of the SMEs are today financing their business with their own capital, with less than 4% in India having access to formal finance. Another issue that these exporters also face is that in India, traditionally, the collateral to loan value has been much higher than other economies. So even the 4 or 5% that do access credit have to put up almost 2.5 times collateral to the loan that they get. And that again limits the amount of credit that they are able to get from banks. If you will see how much of the bank's outstanding has been to MSMEs, it has more or less remained in the same range, which is around the 16 to 18% over the last 2 years. Even though RBI has announced rate cuts, banks are trying multiple things to push out more credit, but it's just the nature of the market, and it's not enough for MSMEs. The key reasons why this exists, right? The first is most banks require hard collateral, and most of the SMEs that are there in the country do not have sufficient collateral to provide to banks to get access to that credit. The second thing is that most banks will evaluate SMEs based on their financial performance, and as any exporter can testify, right? If you are a small business doing everything end to end on your own, it's like the proprietor or the promoter is running accounts, he's running sales, he's running production. Everything is being handled by 1 or 2 people or a family. And in such cases, for them to have their financials well organized and chase banks for approvals, provide them with all the information they need becomes a big hassle, and hence they're not able to sort of access credit when required. There are other issues which are also leading to a liquidity crunch as the crisis unfolds. So first thing that we are hearing from some of our customers is that earlier they had long-term orders, which are now being changed into shorter orders or smaller orders over time. And that sort of is hampering their ability to plan and get credit. The second thing is because of these lockdowns, many exporters defaulted, and hence their accounts are appearing as stress, and banks are not ready to lend more to them. Again, not something that they can help, but that does lead to liquidity crunch. And also the measures that were announced by the government were not enough for these exporters, and all the process, right? The disbursement of these incentives and the way that they're supposed to collect it is so long drawn and cumbersome that they're still trying to get hold of most of these incentives, and that is leading to a financial crunch for them. So again, RBI's policies where they did announce rate cuts, but like I said, it's difficult for the exporters to get credit from banks. The other thing has been the GST rollout, where MSMEs have to first pay tax and then wait to get their refunds, which is again leading to some sort of liquidity crunch for them. The fiscal package that was announced for MSMEs, which was it's a huge number if you look at in isolation, which is around 3.6 lakhs crores, was mostly in the form of a credit guarantee instead of actual liquidity. The other important thing to put into perspective is that 3.6 lakh crores gets divided amongst 50 lakh plus SMEs, right? And that is such a small amount. If you look at an exporter, it will not even cover one shipment. So while the number is large, it's not enough to help the SMEs. And the other issue that sort of crops up is that there's a limited window to avail of these incentives. And that leads to a lot of bunching up of requests for a bank or institutions which are giving out these incentives to handle. And that leads to delays and frustration both at the bank's end and the exporters' end. I think the other thing that exporters in India now need to figure out is how they can get off-balance sheet solutions like factoring so that their balance sheets become better, clean up, are less leveraged. So in the future, they're also able to access more bank funding, as well as have this other sort of line of credit to tap into whenever they need money for growth. The credit gap is also sort of accentuated by buyers. And as most of you exporters who are listening to this would be able to testify, right? Like most buyers will refuse to provide LCs and will demand credit from you. And you're not able to sort of provide them the credit, which leads to loss in orders in some cases, or having to borrow money or figure out other sources of capital which are very expensive. The other issue that SMEs also faces, many exports are cyclical in nature, right? So if you look at fashion goods, leather goods, if you look at agro commodities, most of the orders, or seafood also, most of the orders get bunched up in peak season. And that's when your requirement for capital also goes up. And it's difficult to find capital at the last minute. Right. And that is why what we suggest to most exporters is that even if you don't need a line of credit as of now, you should always have something available that you can tap into if you're getting an order, or also be able to offer credit to some of your customers so that you can get more demand from them. So that's how we've seen buyers also causing this stress for SMEs. What is DRIP's solution? So, like I said, DRIP is a factoring company. Our solution is pretty straightforward and simple. The day it's post-shipment finance. So the day an exporter ships their goods, they can get 80% of that value as an advance from DRIP Capital. And once your buyer pays after say 30 or 60 days, you get the remaining 20%. And our pricing is also very competitive. It's in the range of 0.7 to 1% per month. And it's completely collateral free, making it easy for you to access. And also it grows, our limits grow with you. So this is sort of the key benefits of our offering. So it's completely collateral free. We provide up to $2.5 million of limit, low pricing, minimal paperwork. It will take you just about 2 minutes to apply online. So you can apply on our website, dripcapital.com. And in a day or two, someone from our team will reach out to you with an offer letter. Going back to what is it that we do different from banks, and why are we better at servicing SMEs than traditional banks, is that that is our primary focus, right? While for banks, their primary focus is the larger corporates. For us, the primary focus is small and medium-sized businesses doing around $300,000 to $5 million in exports. We onboard customers in less than 5 days. It's completely digital, no collateral required. And we also evaluate exporters more based on their trade history and relationship with buyers, rather than just looking at financial performance. To give a perspective of how DRIP has helped MSMEs over the past few years. If you will see, Indian exports have grown by 2% at a compounded annual growth rate over the last 5 years. For MSME, that number is 6.5%. But for MSMEs that have been working with DRIP, that number is 31%. So these companies have bin really able to use the finance that DRIP is being providing them to grow their business much faster than the others. I would now like to discuss what DRIP did through this COVID to help exporters working with us, and the kind of impact that has had on exporters. So again, I'm comparing how Indian exports have shaped up over the year versus how exporters who have been working with DRIP have grown. So if you would see in the sort of 7 months from April to October, right, Indian exports grew from 10 billion to $25 billion, which is more or less the same level they were at in Jan before the crisis. But exporters working with DRIP were exporting around $180 million. So this is the total value of exporters that work with DRIP. Their exports have grown by 75%. So they are doing almost 2 times the volume that they were doing pre-COVID by October, right? So they took advantage of being able to provide credit to their customers, advantage of having cash available to pay off their suppliers or just manage business, and really grow their business in this crisis rather than just try to get back on their feet. In terms of how DRIP has been enabling them, we have since COVID, right? We went into actually became much more aggressive with financing invoices, and we have doubled the number of invoices that we finance on a monthly basis, right? So if you will see the number of invoices being financed in Jan versus what we are doing in November, it's almost 2 times more. Our team has increased from 120 people to 180 people, and we are continuing to hire very aggressively. Again, if any of y'all are interested in opportunities in trade finance and would like to be a part of this amazing company, you can go to our website and apply, and we have openings across the board in various different roles.
Thanks. I think Mr. Shah, I think we are running short of time, so maybe in a minute you can wrap up.
Sure. So another thing where we helped a lot of exporters is that we helped them with the recoveries. So since they make their money when they get the remaining 20%, so we work very closely with exporters and buyers to help recovery. And we have helped almost less than 5% of our portfolio has had delayed payments. We launched a mobile app to make it easier for exporters to start getting financing in COVID. This is some of the reviews that exporters have given us, where they've said it's quick, simple, the relationship and service provided is great, it's backed with technology. This is a case study of one of our exporters from West Bengal. It's a seafood exporter. Since 2018, they have more than doubled their business, and almost 20 to 25% of their business is being financed by DRIP. They work with SBI and they're very happy with SBI as well. But they do prefer getting finance from DRIP because they feel it's much faster, and their SBI is not able to meet their complete requirements for credit. So for all the growth that they need, they come to DRIP to get credit. These are some of the other exporters, names of large exporters that we work with in West Bengal, and there are many more. If any of the exporters want references, we are happy to provide them. You can just get in touch and see how other exporters have had experiences working with DRIP. We continue sharing, and last is we've raised more than $100 million in capital, 45 million in equity, 55 million in debt, and are providing finance to exporters. So that's it from my side. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. Thanks for a wonderful presentation. So before I hand it over to Mr. Dr. Vivek Roychaudhary for the concluding remarks, probably I would like to have 30 seconds from each of you to talk about what are the top 5 opportunities or probably interventions that are required to boost trade finance in India. 30 seconds, please, not more than that. Just your thoughts. So I'll start with Mr. Ramesh and then go in the order for the speakers.
I think trade finance has very good days ahead, and as I have outlined in my earlier talk, we would continue to work on providing a framework for Indian exporters to access unapproached markets. We operate in a space where other commercial banks are not there, so we would try to support medium and long-term trade finance activities. And I would say startup, but the players like DRIP Capital and all, we would also be happy to support them. We would like to. I did mention in the international factoring part. These are great initiatives taken, and which are going to change the landscape of trade finance. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr.
Anvarasan, yeah. See, as far as ECGC is concerned, because I couldn't complete it, you have intervened. We have been supporting to the exporters for the last, since 1957. Last decade, we have paid about 8,000 crore claims to the exporters under short-term and medium and long-term exports receivables. Then this year, as of now, 657 crore claim has been paid because we have been getting a lot of claims due to pandemics, these COVID pandemics. As of now, we have 657 crore. We have paid more than 600 claims are still pending under the policy. Then from bank side also we have 400 claims. So we are aiming to settle the claim of 1,000 crore and above during this year. This is our this aim for this year. We have been supporting to the exporters. This is my message. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Prasad, quickly, 30 seconds.
Yeah. As I have already told that in opening import LC, we have provided a digital solution and the customer can open import LC using our YONO app. This is a product that we are always advocating. And in the month of December alone, our 89% of import LC opening has happened through this digital mode. So here we are targeting to reach 100%. Wherever it is not possible, we would be okay, but we want to reach to the level of 100%. This is the prime target that we have set. And eForex is also one product platform which provides the opportunity to the customers to take rates sitting from the comfort of his home or office. So these two things, digital, we are pushing, and we want the customers to take full advantage of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Prasad. Mr. Shah, 30 seconds. What are the opportunities or I would say interventions you see going forward?
Yeah. So for DRIP and for everyone, I feel factoring as a product is sort of underpenetrated in the Indian market. So with less than 1% or 2% using such services, I think there is a lot of opportunity to use technology and mobile solutions to penetrate more. And also the use of data to actually underwrite risk and provide finance to SMEs who are largely underserved. I think just that and just doing that should help a lot of exporters grow their business.
Thank you, all of you, the speakers. Really a wonderful session. Now I'd like to hand over to Dr. Roy Choudhury to have his concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Moitra. I have gone through the communications by each of the speakers, and I have learned a lot. I have taken a lot of notes. But what seems to be coming out as a whole is that one thing is that, of course, we had been impacted by the pandemic. And because of the impact of the pandemic, initially trade was lower, but it is heartening to note that now it is going up. And it was more heartening to note that for West Bengal, the data shown by Mr. Shah shows that there is a V-shaped recovery. So, which means that things are, not bad and it is moving towards the positive direction. But one thing that I think pandemic has given us is that it has helped us to understand that if we are in a crisis, what should be done? I mean, it was a crisis which was bold from the blue. And then we didn't know how to react. But then I think that, all the institutions, Exim Bank, ECGC, then, companies like DRIP Capital, SBI. So everyone has come forward with what I have found out is very innovative products. So what is the hallmark of those innovative products? I think one is, tackling the, liquidity crisis. Second, tackling it remotely. And I think third is, basically, attempting to address the people who are more impacted. And I think there the MSME comes. So I think, so that's the learning from the crisis, and that will help us in the future also if we face similar kind of crisis. And we now know that, what can be done. So I think that is a very heartening thing to note. And then, of course, what I've seen, through your discussions and, so there are very, very innovative products which have come up, like, I think the, SBI's product eForex. Then the government came out with the product GECL. And then, products which have been shown by Mr. Shah, then the products which has been shown by Mr. In ECGC, Mr. Anbadasan, where he is talking about mostly the micro exporters. So they have done a lot for the micro exporters, and coverage from them is actually even more than for, the normal exporters, which is very heartening to know. And I think that, that played quite a substantial role in bringing the trade back to where it is today. And it shows us a lot of hope that it is even going to be higher in the near future. So I think we can, given, all this, what I've learned from all of you, so it gives us a lot of hope about the future. and not only about what we can see that in the world over that, and what I think Mr. Ramesh has quite aptly pointed out, that our exports composition have changed. So naturally, when there is a pandemic, and so naturally the products which are more income elastic, their demand is going to come down, and products which are less income elastic, their demand is going to go up, because people are then going to concentrate on more on products and services which are essential. So that's what is happening. And so going forward, so I think 2-3 things should be kept in mind by the exporters. One, we should be more concentrating on products which are essential, because that's in the near term, the demand for them are going to go up. And as we have also seen pharma, naturally, because of the pandemic. So there the demand is. So when we are looking at how to target products and how to target markets, 2 things I think should be kept in mind. One, the income elasticity of demand of the products and services. And number 2 is definitely that which are the countries which are less impacted by COVID, or which have been able to control the COVID in a better manner. So I think when we are targeting markets and products, these things should be kept in mind. And naturally, as you have seen, all these institutions are there to help you out. So they are helping you out in all possible ways, so that the business don't stop. Even if you're trying to restructure, that also can be restructured. There is finance for restructuring. So I think these are very, very heartening things to note. So I will start with thanking Mr. Ramesh, DMD Exim Bank, for coming here and sharing his views. And we have learned a lot from you, sir. Then Mr. Anbadasan, Executive Director, ECGC, thank you very much for coming here and sharing your views. I hope that all the participants have learned a lot from you. Then Mr. Prasad, DGM SME Exim from SBI. We have also seen that how SBI has reoriented themselves and become more customer friendly, become more digital, and coming up with more innovative products. And then, of course, Mr. Shah, it was heartening to note that drip capital like companies are there, and they are doing much better than our conventional companies. So it was very heartening to note, and thank you for coming here. And lastly, Mr. Moitro, for very ably guiding the speakers and keeping the time. So I thank you. Thanks also is due to him. So I will now hand over the session to Arnav.
Thank you, sir. We must mention that we are also grateful to all the audience for their participation, and also all our esteemed sponsors like event partner Exide, diamond sponsor Indian Exim Bank, gold sponsors SBI and Holdia Petrochemical Limited, silver sponsor TMIL, ECGC, Power Enterprise, and Steel Authority of India Limited. With this, I'll conclude this session, and we will be sharply back exactly at 2 o'clock, and with a special plenary session on what we consume, what we trade, Atmanirbhar Bharat, preparedness for global play, and ensuring the new normal trade growth of India. Thank you all. Thank you.